state by the best authorities in that major hospital, was home playing with the grandchildren. Not totally really, but at that level of eating breakfast with the grandchildren. Now what is going on here? How come Western medicine has not been able to do this? Here's this Qigong master and she's able to do that. We've seen the same kind of Qigong masters do all kinds of similar demonstrations in these sessions. Now I want to turn to something which we did at Penn State. One of the most dramatic evidences for Americans is this one. I had been told about these people who do this practice, Qigong. It is especially the followers of Dr. Yan Xin, one of the Qigong masters, slowly come into a state where they don't eat. It's called the Bi-Gu state. No food state. It isn't something that's not like going to heaven or something, it's just you don't eat. Now, when the woman first, in this very office, just about where you're sitting, she said, well, I haven't eaten for 5 years, 60-something. I said, what? What do you mean by you haven't eaten? She said, well, I don't take any solid food. So I said, what do you do? She says, I drink some tea, and then she took out of a can, right there, she took out a little bag, some cans of iced tea, and she gave one to each of us, and I drank mine, and I saved half of it. Then I had it chemically analyzed to see if there's some protein and some other stuff in there. There was nothing. It was just miserable old Chinese tea. And so this woman drinks tea, and we have tried to maybe 100, 200 calories per day. She has lived like that now. Today, she has lived for 12 years without eating any solid food. Now is she in a Himalayas or way up in the, no, she works in New York City. She runs a company, a computer company. She has a PhD, and she's got a whole, I went to their meetings, I found 70 people in a meeting, professors at all the major universities, researchers at RCA, at Boeing, at Bell Labs, at IBM, Chinese, who were in this state. They didn't eat. So we put on here at Penn State a meeting to understand this phenomenon. 570 people came to that meeting. 70 people at that meeting were in this Bi-Gu state. There, these are all the professors, associate dean at UCLA. We're not talking about any weirdos. How can they not eat? So that's what we've been trying to understand. Here's a phenomenon, and we try to study it, and how does it happen, and what is the role. We found parents who'd had children born who've never eaten. There in the hub at Penn State were kids who had never eaten for 4 years and 5 years. They were 3 years and 5 years old. And how can that be? So now one can go and check it, these kids live in New York City, and so I think the challenge is right here and now. Nobody wants to look at that. They want to do some very well-funded research. But this is the fact. What Aristotle said is, it is enough if you establish that the fact is so. That's all. That's all that counts. If the fact is true that these people don't eat, and we have satisfied ourselves, other people can go and satisfy themselves. But if they don't look, it's It's much easier. Then you don't have to worry about the explanation. So here's the second one. Zhao de Deus, Effie Chow, doing this stuff is proving it. A third one is to say, if we take a high-tech tool, do we find that there's a reasonable explanation for what we may have missed, what Western science may have missed? I don't say Western medicine now, because you can't make any sense of that, but Western science has missed. Okay, example, the meridian system. It is claimed, the Chinese claim, that there's some meridians running through your body, and all these things run, and they're acupoints and all this stuff, and everybody said, hey, we've cut up so many people, we never found a meridian, so these guys are kooks. Well, when President Nixon went to China, Scotty Ruston, the editor of the New York Times, went along. He had an appendix attack. He was taken to the hospital. They cut him open, but they didn't give him anesthesia. They just poked him with a needle. So when he came back, he wrote that in the New York Times, and that's what acupuncture was born in the US. Not because any medical science proved it, but because one newspaper story in the New York Times about its own editor said, hey, if that can be true, what else may be right? So acupuncture is real now, so we said, can we check it? At the University of California in Irvine, Professor Jones, Professor Cho said, let's see if we can prove that there are acupoints. And they did a very interesting experiment. They wire you up, put you in an MRI machine, and they say, okay, if we shine a light in your eyes, the cerebral cortex lights up. So, all right, they did that, it lit up. Then they said to the acupuncturist, where is the acupoint for the visual cortex? And he said, oh, it's down here on your right foot and the second toe inside. He says, my God, that's weird. Go ahead and poke it. Now, who could claim that they would intuit that the second toe on your right foot is connected to your visual cortex? Now, what's the result? We use this very high-tech check on a claim by the Chinese, and they go and poke that acupoint, and it lights up. So now the people are stunned. They say, holy cow, how could the Chinese have figured out that this acupoint actually is connected to the visual cortex? It's proved now. There's no shadow of doubt. So the question is, here we were accusing the Chinese of not knowing what they're doing. Now it turns out we don't know what they're doing. We had missed the entire meridian system, whatever that is. The chakras in Indian terminology, the meridians in Chinese terminology. And so a whole lot of science. The good news is that whole person healing, using all the techniques of the world, is going to give us many, many more avenues to get healed. So it's a wonderful new, so we've checked it with high tech, we've checked it with facts, and we are seeing over and over again that the traditional healing practices are backed by excellent science. What do I mean by science? Facts, facts, facts. Reproducible facts. To assume that our great-grandparents were idiots compared to some rock-crazed generation is nonsense. They were not idiots. They did not do things with beating themselves over the head. They found that if they took this leaf, it worked for a headache. Or they took that leaf, it worked for malaria. And out of those came the two biggest discoveries in medicine. What are they? They are, for the pain was aspirin. And they are the bark of the cinchona thing to give us quinine for malaria. So these things were all discovered empirically, but empiricism is science. That is the base of science. Fact, 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 reproduce, reproduce, reproduce. That's the only thing that counts. And that's what our ancestors had time to do. So the basis of all traditional medicine is perfectly scientific, although rather simple. It's simple science that doesn't make it worse. You know, kicking a ball is also validating the laws of motion, And that's very important science. I want to turn to the kind of science we're doing here at Penn State. The two things we're following are, one in the area of water. I'm a material scientist, I know a heck of a lot about structure of matter. And so we've been looking at water, and in that study we have totally disproved the attack that scientists make on homeopathy, for instance. They say, aha, well, you see, if you dilute, if there's no solute molecules in the water, as you do in homeopathy, they put something in, then they dilute it, and they dilute it again, and they say, well, there's no molecules left, so ha, that can't be scientific. Wrong, wrong, wrong. In material science, it is structure that counts, not chemistry. The unfortunate part about Western scientific medicine, so-called, is that it is dedicated to biochemistry, as though we are only body bags. But we are not. We are electromagnetic entities. We are very finely tuned computers and radios, and all those combined. We are electromagnetic entities and acoustic entities, so that we can be influenced by acoustic signals, by magnetic fields, by electrical fields. And the poor old scientific medicine forgot all the physics, because they were all chemists. Like me, I'm a chemist. See, we forgot all about the physics. The future of high-tech medicine, I don't call it scientific, high-tech medicine, is going to be on devices employing the laws of physics, not chemistry. Chemistry is over. Biochemistry, it's obviously finished. It costs $1 billion to make a new pill, and most of them don't work. That's great, right? So we're not going to do much more of that. It's over. The physics side is good. So we're seeing at Penn State, we're looking at all these devices. Magnetic field devices for your knees, for your things, for sleep, for pain. You can stop pain by just exposing yourself to a bunch of radiation. So why am I doing all that other stuff, which is much more hurtful? So we're looking at that, and we're looking, what we do is simply do the science. We don't try to tell you whether it works for pain, works for this, or works for your acne. We're not into that. We are not clinicians. But we do say, what is it? What are the facts about this device? What are the fields? What are the frequencies? So we are calibrating that. The other area where we are working, and we have become a service of a high-tech university to the whole field of whole person healing. We cannot prove that any of their stuff works for any healing, but we can sure tell him what it does, what's going on. So we find in that in water is the other area. We say, well, we don't know a lot about that stuff. Let's see what it does. And we found the most extraordinary stuff. Some of these people have these silver colloids, company in Utah, and the silver colloid kills bugs, even though there's only one atom of silver metal in 1 million atoms of water. So it's purer than your drinking water. And yet that's a very good antibiotic. So we say, aha, how is this working? Maybe it is structure instead of the chemistry. Obviously, there's not much chemistry there. You've got only one. In fact, they dilute it to 1 in 100 million. It still works, like homeopathy. Now you see the similarities. So we've been looking in great detail at the structure of water. And we'll be reporting a series of papers as a contribution on the structure of water. Obviously, most of us are made up of water, our cells are water, so any contribution we make, maybe we can help the case. Like in science, we'll put a couple more bricks in place, but those bricks are kind of shaking up the anti-homeopathy crowd, because now they've got no place to hide. They were just plain and simple wrong. So that's the areas we at Penn State have become a resource to the whole person healing community by bringing physics and chemistry to serve that area. They haven't had access to that. Spiritual healing. Well, you know, spiritual healing has been going on for millions of years, where shamans and witch doctors, whatever you want to call them, went around and healed people without touching them. So what do I mean by spiritual healing? There's no contact, there's no radiation, there's no water, there's nothing. I